Okay, we have received at the moment a couple of questions. The first two are for Jaap Hogeling. The first one from Barry Smith from the National Standards Authority of Ireland is the following. According to the CEN project database, except for pre-EN 15603 and accompanying technical standards and technical reports, the first working drafts for all other work items are not yet available. Is this correct? Please clarify.
Well, it could be correct that they are not in the database, but all the TCs, the other 5 TCs, they decided to accept these work items and to register them, and they should be registered in the CEN database. And the first working drafts are already sent to all the TCs as a first proof that we are working on these standards. So I'm not aware of all these details, but that was the process. So Annette perhaps want to say a few words.
Yes, the thing with the project's website is that they usually do not register their the first working drafts, but the work items are all there. So that's just a question of entering.
Great, thank you. About the software certification. Well,
yeah, maybe it is good to repeat the question first. It is the opinion of Ivan Mangialenti that software certification based on final overall results and reference buildings is required. So please, Jaap.
Yes, well, we will not provide reference buildings in our technical reports. We give some examples for calculation procedures for the different parts of the calculation. This could be a basis for certifying software, but it's not in our task to provide these reference buildings in that sense.
Okay, so thank you. Yes. Yes, do you have something more to add, Jaap?
No, I don't have more to add to that.
Okay. Next question is for Dick van Dijk from Nicholas Heymans. If I understand well what was said, the hourly method will not be banned for energy performance regulations. Is this correct?
Yeah, Dick van Dijk here. That is correct. And also the monthly method will not be banned. We have a preference for the hourly method, but there are member states who want to continue with the monthly method, and therefore we will also include the monthly method as I showed in my presentation.
Okay, thank you, Dick. And the following two questions are for Bjarne Olesen. Are the categories 1 to 3 for airflow and temperature linked to each other? From Lionel Gaudrell.
No, I don't know exactly what is meant by linked, but they are established independently, depending on what we know about the influence of temperature on people and what we know about the ventilation rate. But if you had noticed that the criteria for the thermal environment is based on a lower expected number of dissatisfied, where the criteria for ventilation is based on a higher number, and that's because it seems a lot of people are much more sensitive to the air quality and the level of ventilation. So we cannot use exactly the same criteria expressed as expected number of dissatisfied.
Okay, good, thank you. And what about ventilation controlled by building management systems with rates defined on the base of controlled parameters? The question is raised by Ivan Mangialenti.
Yes, I think that could be related to what we call demand control, but the rates cannot be defined on other control parameters. The rates are defined according to the requirement for acceptable indoor air quality. And but in some cases you can make higher rates, especially when you want to use outside air also for cooling parts of the year. So you can go with higher rates, which can then be controlled by the building management system based on other criteria. But you cannot, let's say, go below the criteria we are using for the indoor air quality.
All right. Thank you all. I think these were the questions for the first phase, and we can move on with the presentations.
We have just one moment. We have, in the meantime, received a few more questions that, of course, were asked during the while we were answering the first ones. I don't know if Jaap and the rest, you can see them at the Q&A panel at the bottom right. I will read them. Okay?
Okay.
You can also view them there. Okay, from Sheikh Havana, for eco-design, there are system efficiencies, derivation standards different to overall system efficiencies in the new EPBD standards? And is there more detail readily available on how ERP, eco-design, EPBD standards will interact? And will the eco-design EPBD timelines overlap?
Well, that's of course an open question. We cannot give the answer at this moment. In the different task groups in the different TCs where they handle these products that are connected to the systems, like products for heating systems or products for ventilation air conditioning systems, they have to look in that and they have to communicate this with the product TCs if necessary. So I cannot give the answer if there is an overlap. We have to communicate and to see that the procedures given in the product standards are in line with the procedures or they should refer to the procedures in the system standards as we develop them under the EPBD program. It is a point of attention in the different TCs on the systems.
Okay. Two complementary questions for Dick van Dijk. First, from Nicholas Heimans, continued to the previous question. If I understood well, the revised simple hourly method does not aim to improve the overall accuracy compared to the monthly method. Is this correct? Is that's one? And there is also a complementary question by Mark Delfast. With regards to the new hourly calculation method, some assumption has to be made regarding the location of the thermal capacity within the separate components. Is there a decision made regarding that position, e.g. in the middle of the thermal resistance?
Okay, yes, I understand the question. The first question, does the new simplified hourly method aim to improve the overall accuracy compared to the monthly method or not? Yes and no, because as I said, the overall accuracy in general is not the main aim, because then you would try to deal with other details too. But the main focus is on these hourly patterns to get these correctly modeled compared to the monthly mean values. So if you have a case with very static situation like we had in the past, where you had only heating needs and low internal gains compared to the losses, low solar gains compared to the losses, then you would have more or less a static thermal balance in the heating season, and you could well deal with a monthly method, and this hourly method would not be more accurate. But if you have a low energy building and where the influence of the solar gains and internal gains and also interactions with the ventilation and the systems is much more dynamic, then you would see the difference. So answer to the first question, and the second question I see is partly on the screen to remember. The location of the, for instance, of the insulation layer in each building element. It's a good question. As we said, we want to make an improvement compared to the current very simple hourly method. But we promised not to increase the number of input data. So in that case, we say, okay, if you have an insulation on the outside or on the inside, it makes quite a difference for that element on your thermal dynamics of the building. But certainly for the time being, we say, okay, we will not ask for new input data, so the default model will be that you equally divide the thermal mass and thermal insulation through your construction. And of course, there's an option to deal with the more realistic situation later on, but it's not our prime focus at the moment. That's my answer on these two questions.
Okay, thank you very much. Just an additional question again for Dick. Will there be any further specification or requirements for the simulation-based hourly methods?
Yeah, Dick here again. For the simulation-based hourly method, which means a detailed simulation tool, I suppose. Detailed simulation tools compared to the revised, improved, simplified hourly method. Well, if the question is about this revised, simplified hourly method, that will be fully specified. And I forgot to answer to add to my previous answer in the first round of Q&As that we keep our monthly method, and we have a revised simple hourly method. But it's up to the member states to make a choice for which application they choose the simple hourly or the monthly method. So this means that if the question was, will the hourly method still be used for the building, be applicable for the building regulation? So the more precise answer is yes, but it's up to the member state whether they choose the hourly method or monthly method. And actually the same goes for if you go to a detailed simulation tool, it's up to the member states to reject the standard, not to use it, and to use full simulation tools. But we have no ways in CEN to control all the algorithms of a detailed simulation tool and also the input data. So this will be out of our control. So that we cannot have a standard which accepts such an open end as you have with the detailed simulation tool. That's my short answer.
Okay, thank you. And one last question for Bjarne Olesen, and then we will have to switch back to the next presentation as time is running short. The question is, which is the better way for human performance in buildings, adaptive or non-adaptive ventilation rates?
Well, the specified ventilation rate, we mainly take into account, let's say, comfort, perceived air quality, and health of people. And that we want to guarantee that there's no problem with the health. But for sure, we know from data that more ventilation, people feel better and their productivity increases. So it's quite clear that the non-adaptive approach will result in a higher performance of the people.